Outer Worlds 2 is Obsidian's next big thing, but their latest trailers failed to silence the doubters. So we're at a stalemate. Is the game gonna be good, or will the controversies swallow it whole? That's what I want to find out. Outer Worlds 2 releases October 29th, so just a week from now, and it's gonna be out on Xbox Series X and S, PS5 and PC. And here we get to the first controversy. The price. As of right now, the game will cost you $70. As most of you might already know, this was initially announced at $80. Why they thought that was a good idea, I have no clue, but they reduced it to $70 due to the backlash from the community. I mean, come on here, this is not an $80 game. In my personal opinion, it's not even a $70 game, but we'll get to all of that later. How on earth did they think that would be a good idea? I don't know, I have no clue what their advisors were doing, what everybody was doing, but they really screwed up on this one. Obviously, the game got a lot of negative press because of the price, but that being said, there's a good side, I guess. When we get into the details, even the good side doesn't seem that good, but for right now, the good side is that Outer Worlds 2 will be available on Game Pass day 1. That means that if you already own Game Pass, you can just play it at release. You don't have to spend another $70 on it. If you don't own Game Pass, you're either gonna buy it or you're gonna pay for the game or just not play it at all. All of which are good options, by the way. While talking about the price for the game, we need to take into account the developer. Outer Worlds 2 is developed by Obsidian. Yes, that Obsidian, the guys behind the legendary Fallout New Vegas and obviously the original Outer Worlds. I have to admit, Obsidian is a big name in the industry. That's basically the only reason I bought and played the original Outer Worlds. Full disclosure, I absolutely loved the game, but I'm not sure I'm gonna get the second one. And I sort of get the reasoning that, hey, Obsidian's making this game, we can price it at $80, people will still buy it. I understand how they came to that idea. I just don't understand why they went through with it, because if you look into it, it actually makes no sense. Yes, Obsidian does amazing RPGs, they're great at what they do, but it's gonna be a 30-hour RPG. We're not talking about a 100-hour masterpiece like a Red Dead Redemption 2 or, I don't know, GTA 6, something like that. You can't just put a random price on it and expect people to pay it. That's their first mistake. Then obviously, Obsidian is owned by Microsoft now, so they just put it on Game Pass. Game Pass is the thing they've been pushing most lately. It looks like they're really changing their business model. There was a leak last month saying that Xbox is moving away from hardware, so that means no other consoles. Microsoft came out and said, hey, that's not actually true, whatever, but it's still a discussion about that. So they're really focusing on Game Pass and pushing it forward, maybe to the detriment of gamers, maybe not. That's for each of you to decide. But getting back to Outer Worlds 2, Obsidian isn't Rockstar. Okay, Rockstar comes out with GTA 6, they can price it at 100, I'll buy it, you'll buy it, everybody will still buy it. They can do whatever they want. If you're Rockstar in this position, you can just do whatever you want. Obsidian isn't that. They can't do whatever they want, and you can price a 30-hour space RPG at $80. Obviously, they should have expected the backlash. Now, because of that, there's a lot more controversy surrounding the game. Mainly, this is a sequel. Everybody who's played it early described it as more of the same, but slightly better. Yes, the first game was great, I would want more of the same, but for $70 just getting more of the same and slightly better, that sounds like a spin-off type thing, maybe some DLC, you know, it's more of the same, slightly better. A sequel should be innovative, it should bring new things into the franchise, it should feel impactful and big, you know, and nobody described it like that. I've read countless articles about Outer Worlds 2 and 90% of them just described it as more of the same. In the whole gaming industry, there's this whole sentiment towards this game as, yeah, it's good, it's gonna release, it's gonna be fine. Nobody's actually really excited. I mean, not nobody, but very few people are actually very excited about this. And I kept saying it's a 30-hour game. I don't know how many hours the game will actually be. I played the first Outer Worlds for about 30 hours. That's above the average for that game. If you take a look at howlongtobeat.com and you search for the Outer Worlds, it's gonna show you that main story is at 13 hours and a half, main plus extra, meaning side quests, that's at 26 hours and a half, and if you're a completionist and want to go for everything, that's 40 hours and a half. Personally, I played it for 31 hours, so I did the main story, the side quests, and a little bit extra. But if you're the type of person who just wants to go in for the main story, according to How Long to Beat, that's just 13 hours and a half. So the Outer Worlds 2, we have no data for it. Obviously, it releases a week from now, but everybody's expecting the numbers to be pretty similar. I'm not saying you shouldn't pay $70 for something that's a masterpiece, very well crafted, even if it's short. It doesn't have to be long to be good. That's another important thing. It can be a short game but very impactful. However, nobody's describing this as very impactful. Everybody's saying, yeah, more of the same. So I guess you can see how that's a big red flag in this scenario. So I had to dig deeper. The trailers didn't tell me much. I looked into more reviews, and GameBolt posted some very praising videos about Outer Worlds 2. In their comments, a lot of people said these are just ads for the game. They're not. The people there are probably excited for the game and they want to show the best sides of it, and I think that's great. But in their videos, as well as some other articles, I found out some improvements that the sequel has done to the original formula. I think I should start with this because it's fairly obvious. It has better graphics. Not much better, but it's 6 years after the first game, so obviously it's gonna look a little bit better. And then they also put the emphasis on having more choices in your skills, in your build, and actual story choices too. The character builder looks in depth. You can really make your character feel unique, and the character builder they had in the first game way back in 2019, I think they could just take that one and have the exact same character creator in this new game, because that one was so good for its time. It's actually above average even if it came out this year. So you're gonna be able to build a personalized character. That's a good start for an RPG. Then you can choose what you do. There will be 3 huge corporations, sounds similar to the first game, and you can choose who to work for, who to fight against. You don't only choose once at the beginning of the game, you actually choose mission by mission what to do for which company. So you're kind of in between. If you want to go all in and only help one company, I would guess that you can do that too. But personally, when I play a game like this, I do a little bit of everything just to see what the game has to offer. And as you progress through the game, the companies should change and adapt to what you're actually doing, so hopefully the choices will have a big impact. I said earlier, for an RPG, this is pretty short. However, it does have a lot of replayability. Also adding to that is that the skills and the perks that you decide to unlock, they actually change your build in a significant way, and on top of that, there will be no option to respec your build. So if you make a choice, you'll have to live with it until the end of your playthrough. Then you can start another one and focus on different skills. There are a lot of ways that you can play this game. You can be all stealthy and never kill anybody. You can just stalk your way through every encounter. Or you can go out guns blazing, killing everything in sight. Obviously, you can also do everything in between. So there are a lot of reasons to replay the game if it's actually good. They said that the way you build your character and the choices you make in missions will actually impact the story. And yes, a lot of games say this, but not enough actually pull it off. However, in this respect, I have to give it to them. The first Outer Worlds was great at doing this. Not all decisions actually mattered, some of them were just meaningless, but there was a good amount of decisions that actually felt impactful, and I even came across a couple decisions where I had to just sit there for 5 minutes thinking, what should I do here? It was actually hard to decide because it felt like it actually mattered. And it did. So after having that experience with the first game, I can only be hopeful for this second one. I hope it improves on that formula, but even if it stays the same, I feel like that's pretty good for an RPG in 2025. The location, however, will be different. This time you're in a new space colony that has very few ties to the first game. There will be some Easter eggs and references, but even if you're new to the series, you can just jump in and this will be its own story. There's not a lot of relation between this space colony and the one in the last game. Personally, I don't know if I like that. I guess it's good for newcomers, so you don't feel like you have to play the first one to understand the second. That's always a good thing, but having played the first game, I wanted to see where things moved forward with it. You know, it feels like the story could have went somewhere from the ending of the first game. The developers probably also thought about this, but if they ultimately decided to go to a new location, it probably means they had a good reason to do so, or at least I hope. So yes, you'll have a fresh start in a new space colony, and from looking at the trailers, the environments, especially outside of the lived-in areas, they look like they bear a resemblance to the old game's environments. Obviously, they look a little bit better. I think they also put some more attention on details in the environments, from what I can see. I hope it's not just the trailers and the gameplay will reflect that. From the gameplay I've seen too, it does look like that, so let's hope all locations and the whole game has that kind of detail, because this is an actual improvement on the first game's formula. It's still, however, more of the same. You could put these environments in the first game, it wouldn't look out of place. So yes, it's more of the same. It is slightly better, however. That's a step in the right direction, and the story takes the same approach. It looks like it will still have the same feel as the original game story, with dystopian megacorporations that hold all the power in the colonies. If you played the first game, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't play it, think of Cyberpunk, but in space. That kind of megacorporations controlling everything, that's the vibe. They're still holding that vibe. That's good because I really enjoyed what they were doing. They also had some jokes and satire about it. They'll definitely keep the joke scene, but it looks like the tone might be a little bit darker and perhaps more serious this time around. That's a pretty common thing to do in a sequel. You had a funny first game and then you make it more serious for the second one. We've seen other franchises do the same, but how serious? That remains to be seen. As I said, the first game was never too serious and told the story in a mostly light-hearted way, or at least that's how I experienced it when I played it 4 years ago. You might have thought it was a bit different, maybe cynical, but it definitely looks like the second game will have some darker tones. Something I wish I would have heard more about are the side quests. I'm guessing there will still be plenty of them, but the original Outer Worlds had both good and bad side quests. So what I mean by this is some were completely forgettable, basically fetch quests. An NPC would just tell you, hey, go there and get that for me, and you'll have to fight some beasts on the way, and then you bring him that thing and he gives you a reward. That's a fetch quest. There were plenty of those in the first game, but some side quests actually stood out to me. Some were a masterpiece of world building and subtle storytelling. I absolutely love when a game does that, and for me, this is just my opinion, I think the game that does it the best is The Witcher 3. The Outer Worlds franchise is not on that level, so don't expect anything like that, but the first game still had some meaningful side quests. I just hope the second one can keep that up, and maybe also improve on the fetch quest. I'd love to see less of those and more of the good ones. Now I want to go back to the price. So we've looked at the slight improvements that it's probably gonna have over the first game. Apart from what we talked about, it's going to be just more of the same, slightly better, as I said. Now, Luke Stevens, if you don't know him, he does a lot of gaming news. He's amazing and I've been watching him for a long time. But he had this interesting idea about the development of recent Obsidian games. Basically, he has a theory that their strategy might be to create a game that's just good enough to put on Game Pass day one, just like this game, but not good enough to spend $70 on it. In my opinion, just like this game. Now, I don't mean to discourage you from buying it. I won't right now. I'll personally wait for a sale. I'll probably play it next year or 2 years from now. I'm not in a rush at all. I did love the first game. I will play the second, just not now. So what he basically said is, hey, this game's gonna be good enough to play for free on Game Pass if you pay. It's not free, you have to pay for Game Pass, but still, if you already have Game Pass, it's basically free for you. So it's gonna be good enough for that, but not good enough for $70. And what that does is it makes people want to buy Game Pass. That's what Luke said. And it makes sense. You look at it and you think, I'm not paying that much. And then you look at the price of Game Pass. As of right now, I think Game Pass Ultimate is $30 per month, and you get access to a lot of games, including Outer Worlds day one as it releases. So who's stopping you from getting Game Pass, right? You play the game, you finish it, and you cancel your subscription. Then you just play the game for $30. The catch is you don't have access to it anymore. So if you pay $70, you have the game, you can replay it whenever you want, even a year from now. Or you can go the Game Pass route, you can play it and cancel your subscription. However, a lot of people won't cancel their subscriptions. And why is that? Because there are a lot of games coming to Game Pass. As I said, they are pushing it really hard. Most recently this year, I think Call of Duty is also on Game Pass. I might be wrong on that, so don't quote me, but they've got a lot of games there. So then why would you cancel your subscription? You get what I mean? They are trying to lure people into Game Pass. Now, the theory that Outer Worlds 2 and other games are just a marketing scheme to do that is just a theory, so take it all with a grain of salt. I've personally heard this from Luke Stevens. I don't know if he heard it somewhere else, but it's an interesting theory. My personal opinion about this is I don't know if they're actually doing that. I wouldn't put it past them to do such a marketing strategy. I think these days they are spending as much on marketing as they are on actually building the game. So anything could be possible, and it doesn't sound bad as a business plan. However, I think it does hurt the consumer, which is the gamer that wants to play the game. I don't think that's good for the consumer. Because if you don't have to make people buy it, then you're not gonna make it good enough to be worth the money. And I'd rather play a game that's good enough and that I actually want to buy because it's good enough than a mediocre game that I'm just gonna play a couple years from now at a sale. I'm not calling Outer Worlds 2 mediocre. It was a theoretical example. I have not played the game yet, so I can't say it's bad or good. I can just say what it looks like 1 week ahead of release. But don't forget the whole Game Pass thing, take it with a grain of salt. It's a theory, nothing confirmed. So, after hearing all this, what are your thoughts? Is Outer Worlds 2 worth $70? Will you play it on Game Pass, or are you skipping it for now? I'd love to read all your answers in the comment section below. And also, don't forget to subscribe for more gaming news. I've been Games for Life, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!